All right, there you go.
All right, great.
Hey guys, you're joining the LOI training. Sam didn't know this was gonna be. She was gonna have her hair all done, but the LOI training is starting now.
Hey guys.
Don't look at yourself.
There's nowhere to hide this.
Hold on,
Can we minimize that or something?
Oh, you can minimize that. Cool.
Please, thank you. That's so much better.
All right.
I'm one of those people that talks to myself in the mirror.
All right, guys. Sorry for the delay. Cast. There you go.
This is the purchase one first. I gotta change it. Thank you. It's not the one I wanted to. Okay, perfect.
Oh, yeah, there's more. I'm sorry. You were out of sight on my.
Okay, so we'll start with the LOI for lease. Okay. All right, does everyone know what an LOI stands for? Let's start by there, because that would be like the ideal thing. Letter of intent, okay? Basically, when you're trying to get a property rented for your commercial clients, you know, they're looking for spaces, you know, put in this letter of intent. We're the ones that, as the tenant's agent, we're the ones that prepare it, okay? The selling agent will be the one that prepares the lease once it's accepted, the letter of intent. Exactly. We can, yes, exactly. All right. So for the first line, as you guys see here, I put the date and I also put where to reply to. I always put my email. I don't want them to talk to my clients for nothing. You never want your commercial agents to interact with your clients no matter what. They can always go around you. In commercial, our commission is not protected. The board, if you take it to trial, you have to hire your own attorney, your own everything. You know, the board does not help us in that way. So it's a little bit different with residential, that it's once it's on the MLS, it's yours. No, in commercial, they can take it away from you if you don't put it in writing from the beginning. From the beginning, okay? So starting with that, you know, always put da-da-da-da, and then this is how I do my LOIs. Basically, this one I actually is the most recent one I done, and I added a lot of stuff to it. So I'm going to show you guys things that I did add, okay? So this is a new warehouse. We're going to do based on this one because, and from there, if you guys any questions, just ask me if it has to relate to like an office space or whatever the case is, if I don't answer you. So I always put the address and that I have been authorized to talk for my client, which is where I have the blank line, to put a letter of intent for either, in this case, it's a warehouse space. You can always put the square footage and put office space, land, whatever it is. If it's the land, you're going to put how many acres. If it's land, you're going to also put the folio number. Okay, any land. Buildings, I always put obviously the address, and you know, if it has 30 units, 40 units, I'll put some little minor description. Okay, this one is a new construction, so technically premises info, I usually put, you know, just the information of the space. So in this case, this is new construction, it was just being built. I basically got it from the data sheet. Like usually the landlord's agent will send you, you know, maybe a floor plan or something, but always detail everything. If you notice here where I put premises info, I put everything about this property. I put the height, you know, the power, everything, the parking, everything in this little premises info. And secret, I just copied and pasted the data sheet. That's all I did, and I just changed everything up. Okay, so I make sure in writing that my client is gonna get this. This is what they want. They want everything, the height, the type of electrical, they want all of that, and I put it in writing. Business use is super important. A lot of places won't allow certain uses. Okay, always do your homework before showing those properties. A lot of spaces, commercial spaces, they won't allow you in a warehouse. They won't allow you for a body shop. in office spaces. They only want certain type of retail or certain type of offices. Sometimes they won't let you convert a doctor's office to a regular gym. You know, you have to always ask. The use is important. Like, make sure the use is accepted, because you're going to waste time and your client's going to get pissed at you. Okay. Then, of course, comes the term. So usually in commercial, it's 2 to 5 years, minimum 2 years, up to 5 years. Okay. Some places will do 3 years. Then you have these, you know, mom and pops warehouses or office spaces that they've owned for many years, and the owner's the one that's, you know, handling, and they may not be very familiar on how commercial works, and they'll do 1 year leases. I have clients that do 1 year leases. It's not that it's a bad thing. It's just that they're more by owner. They're very focused. They only have maybe a little bit. They don't care so much to increase the price, which is what the terms are for, is for them to be able to give them the increments in the lease. You know, the increments are usually at a 3%. It's pretty standard. If they're locked in for a long-term lease. That's why they try to lock you into a long-term lease, because that's what their goal is, to be able to increment without you having to renegotiate with you at the end of the year. Okay. But if your client's like, listen, I just want 1 year, it's fine. Then at the end of that year, you have the opportunity to either re-rent it for your client or increase the current tenant that's there. So what does this mean? 5-year lease term from commencement date with a 3-year renewal option. Okay. So if you do a lease for 5 years, in 3 years, they have the option to continue for another 3 years. To continue for the 5 years. Okay. So that's what the 3 years. In 3 years, she has the opportunity to renew, continue her 5-year term, or figure out what she wants to do at that moment. Okay. That's what the renewal option is. Also, the renewal option, when I get down, you're going to see there's, in this specific LOI that I did, I gave the landlord 2 options from the beginning on what she wants when the renewal comes. And we'll get to that in a little bit, okay? Then comes the lease commencement date, okay? The lease commencement date is when the lease is actually going to start. If they get 3 months, in this case, I will get to that next because it's already there. Then comes the rental rate. So if you guys see there, I put base rent shall be $11 per square foot times 7% sales tax, because these people don't have any CAM. What CAM stands for is your property taxes, insurance, common areas, anything that the owner pays for, they basically included in your tenant's rent. Either it can be a small percentage, it can be a dollar sign, whatever it is per square foot, depending on how they structure that. It could be either or. You always ask, is there any CAM? Okay, this is additional cost. On top of the sales tax, the tenant has to pay this no matter what, and it fluctuates. So if the taxes go up, there's a chance that the CAM is going to go up, okay? That's all negotiated from the beginning. And then if it goes up, the CAM, it still remains the same even. Now, when it's time to renew the whole lease, then they might increase the CAM because, your tenant already didn't pay the increase from before, okay? Sure.
CAM is the same thing as a triple net and pass-throughs, no?
Triple net, you mean
The triple net,
the triple net, yeah.
Or the
Yeah.
pass-through.
The pass-through,
They call it the pass-through, and I was like, what? And then I said CAM, and he's like, yeah, same thing.
okay, yeah, the pass-through, that's like very old school terminology, but yeah, pretty much it's the same thing, the triple net. Okay. Rent abatement. Okay, what that means is basically in this case, they ask for 3 months of free rent, 2 months of free rent. That's so your tenant can prepare the property to put it for operation. Okay, and that's my thing. They need 2 months. They need, whatever the case is. That's the rent abatement is free rent. That's what it is. So in this case, it would be January, February, March. She'll start paying in April. Okay. Tenant improvements. She's not asking for you to fix anything. So I put $0. Sometimes I'll put, they want new flooring. The drywall has a hole. They want to put up a wall. Whatever the case is that you're asking for the landlord to put into the property. Okay. Tenant improvements. I'm sorry. Scratch that. I said that wrong. That the tenant is going to be doing to the property. Okay. Then comes the landlord, which is now the landlord is when we're asking him to do something for us. Okay. Again, this is my LOI, guys. So you guys have, there's many different types of LOIs. I'm just showing you my LOI. Okay. So the landlord agrees property will be given and currently installed equipment, $1,000 credit for flooring. In this case, our warehouse is brand new. So everything needs to be done as in the flooring. The bathrooms are done, but the floor is concrete. So for the office spaces, she wanted the landlord to do the flooring. And he said, no, I'm going to give her a credit of $1,000 instead. Okay. So it's this is always an LOI, letter of intent. Your first thing, I always low ball at the beginning and let them come back to me, and then we start like that. The lower you go, the better, because the more you can get for your tenants, for your clients. Okay. Your wish list, exactly. The first letter, this is the second letter of intent. The first one we have put in was at $975, and they're asking $1,125. The second, the landlord came back and said, no, since it's brand new construction, I won't go less than $311, but I'll give her the 3 months free rent. Okay. So that's kind of what's going on here. Actually, what came back yesterday was that they sent us the lease, and they're giving, there's actually a $200 addition to a $200 a month addition to the rent because of trash. And this was never talked about from the beginning. So you see how things start popping up now out of a sudden when the lease comes back. So there's a $200 on top of all this. She has to pay $200, and we didn't know about it. So that's a big issue because I'm already over her budget.
Wouldn't that be part of CAM? If it doesn't have CAM, then that's technically a CAM. So
then that's technically a CAM, exactly. And the listing agent never told me. Well, I guess the person that represents the developer. I don't even call her a listing agent. She never told me about the $200, which is already a problem because I'm already over budget. So now it's like, oh, listen, like we're at $7,000 now versus before I was at $6,700. So it's a big thing.
Of course.
And then, of course, that's why it's important you always ask, like, what is included in the rent, what's not, what it's important. And they're chickens. When I say chickens, I'm a chicken, so it's fine. But they're always running around. They're just focusing on the dollar number, and that's really all they care about, in commercial at least. Okay, parking. So if you see here, I just put, please define if there's any parking assigned. In the premises info, they already told me that there's 5 assigned parkings. But this is a very broad LOI. I always use this LOI. So I just leave it blank and I let them tell me. And I kind of get it after everything, then I'll get it in writing. But sometimes I might go in at 2 and then the property has 3 parkings. So why am I going to cut one out for my client when they can give me more? Office spaces are the ones that mainly you need like major detail with parking situations. Office spaces are very important. How does parking work? Do they pay for it? Who pays for it? All that stuff in the office spaces are very important when is there street parking, retail parking, how many parkings are assigned is super important because there's a lot of problems with that, with the parking situation for retail and office spaces because obviously, it's very limited. It's very limited.
Yeah, I had a situation where the parking is free. Oh, we do have a lot. The parking is free, and then there's no CAM, but everybody has to pay a fee for a security guard to be there 24 hours to make sure that not all of South Miami parks there. So I'm like, so then there is a maintenance side.
Exactly.
But they suck it to you at the end. Like, oh, by the way, you gotta pay this.
Exactly.
So it's free, but not free.
Exactly. So that's a big thing. Okay. What else? Now we're going into, the renewal option. So what I was telling you guys, okay. Tenant requires 1 3-year option with the same terminating terms from 3rd year and an extension of 1 year at the end of the term, 3-year termination. I don't even know what the heck I put there, but yeah.
No.
And to renew the lease premises. The renewal options shall be exercised by tenant no later than 60 days prior to So what happened here, so you guys kind of see why I worded this way. My client said, I want to try and see what we can do in 3 years. I want to see either I don't even remember but now, with the same terms. Basically, in 3 years, she wants to agree again. She's willing to do it for another year. To stay with the same terms or an extension, 1-year extension. Okay? Yeah. Because what happened in this situation, so you guys get it, and this is my lovely client, she doesn't want her rent to increase for 3 years. Unfortunately, in commercial, rent is always going to be increased. So she wanted me to structure it some way, somehow, that if they do decide to increase the rent, that she only wants to renew it for 1 more year. She doesn't want to do the full 5 years. So, tremendo roco.
But what I don't understand is that going back to where you said 5 years, so it's basically a 3-year lease.
Basically. But the 5 years, she could stay for 5 years too. Believe it. It's like a double whammy. I know.
Yeah.
It took me forever to understand that term. Like forever. You trust me when I tell you I've read it now. 5, 6, 7 articles. Sometimes I still have to go back and reread those terms, like, because I lose myself in my own stuff. So that's something that in this LOI, I gave them 2 options to be able to do that when it's time to renew. Usually it's only 1 option, and that's it.
So she has 3 years at the
same rate.
Mm-hmm. And at that 3rd year,
if she gets to renegotiate her terms, and then she'll have either to stay for the full 5 years or renew for 1 more year. That's what she wants.
And within those 3 years, there is no rent increase?
That's what she wants. Doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. I got the lease back, and it's just 3%.
3 years, exactly the same without a 3% increase or 4% increase.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I want a uniform.
Yeah. And that's because she rents now from a regular owner that has a warehouse for 35 years, and the guy does not care to increase her rent. So she has a different strategy. But now she needs a way bigger warehouse, 6,000 square feet. It doesn't work that way. Once you get to that level, they're not looking to save you money. They're looking for money in their pocket. That's a whole different. You go from a little 1,200 square foot warehouse. Yeah, they're okay with the $1,200 a month, and they don't care as long as you pay your rent. But once you reach the higher level or the bigger projects like that, it's an investment. They're here to make money. They're not here to make sure you're okay. Like, they don't care. They care about their investments. And, how much is this producing? Is this worth it? Okay, well, let's tear down these warehouses. Let's build brand new warehouses and start all over again. And they do different things. Okay. Assignment and subletting, which is basically that the tenant can assign the property. Okay. This is very, very common in this business, in this side of the business, especially because businesses don't do good. You're stuck in a lease. You don't know what to do. You're going to lose. They're going to go after you for 5 years of rent. So what do you have to do? You have to let go and try to sublease it to someone to take over so you don't get penalized yourself. Because once you're locked in to these deals, or once you're locked into a lease there, you're paying off the property, basically. So that's important to always include that clause for your clients. Okay. Most important, your real estate commission. Okay. This is when I tell you guys you have to put it in writing before. In this case, since it's not on the market, it's off market, I have to put it like that, and I have to see what they're going to pay me, so it's a separate agreement. If I would have known from the beginning what they're going to pay me, I would just put their 3% to us, or 4% or 7% or whatever the case is going to be. In commercial, 3% is actually becoming more common. Before I was at a 5% for tenants agent, 5% for landlords agent, but now I guess they caught on, and they're trying to. I've been getting 3%. I probably got in already 3% 3 times this year, which is very, very weird because I used to always get 5%. So I know that things have been changing. These people, they're paying 3% too, but they pay you 3% of the full term. Okay. So if you do a lease for in this case, she'll be paying me for 3 years, even though it's a 5-year, but it's technically only 3 years. So she's only going to be paying me for 3 years of the gross. So the base rent, by the way, no CAM and taxes. So base rent times 36 months. And that's times the 3%. And that's what I would make in this one.
If she renews, do you have to go back in and renegotiate to get her that extension of the 1 year and the 2 years to make up the time?
It's important that you do because you want to get paid. You know,
so
if you don't, you don't get paid.
If she renews it herself and negotiates with it, they can do that. Negotiate those 2 years without.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you got to be on top of your game in commercial. You got to do a lot of reminders, a lot. So that's important. And in the lease, of course, make sure that in the lease your name is there somewhere. If it says real estate brokerage, make sure lifestyle's name there somewhere. It doesn't have to say what you're gonna make, but you need to be there somewhere. Okay, and that can help you get your money for whatever she does renegotiate. That can help you. Doesn't necessarily mean you can, but it will help you. It's an actual document, a black and white document. You're supposed to get it, and at that moment.
Yeah, you're talking about the lease agreement.
And once you jump to the lease. Okay. And then this is a new one that I just added recently because in commercial, people rent properties, but then they grow this great business. They're doing great. And then all of a sudden, the seller decides to sell. Okay. The first right of refusal helps your tenant stay in the property. First right of refusal to buy the property. Let them get the first right. Now, if it's a big bulkage package sale of all the warehouses or all the offices in one, then your tenant, since she does have some type of, she's locked in some way, somehow has the chance to negotiate directly with the buyer. Okay, because she has some type of right in here, if that makes sense. Okay, so this is actually a new one because I just recently rented a warehouse of one of my clients and the guy wants to buy it in 2 years. He would buy it right now, but my client's in a 1031 exchange. So what happens that they have to keep the property for a certain period of time because the 1031 exchange. After that, then they can do whatever they want with it. Okay, so they don't pay the taxes of the profits that they made for whatever they sold before. That's what a 1031 exchange is. Okay. So, and then of course, there's always a contingency, which I always leave like that because you never know if they need to change zoning, if they need to do anything. It's been in the LOI that this has to be done. So if they have to go to the building department, they have to change the zoning. They have to, in this one, I didn't delete it, but that's from the old one. The Camry was never given to me from the beginning, so I had to put it there in the contingency because they never gave it to me. So those are little things, okay? And then, of course, this is just like a little clause, I guess you want to call it, which is basically saying that this is just a document that I'm presenting to you. It is not full, protecting basically both ends. So like if the tenant is aware, but it's not fully accepted and vice versa. Okay, so it's very minimal. And then it's like a little thing at the end and And then in this case, I added this part back down here, the acknowledge and agree by, because I'm dealing with new construction and I don't know who I'm dealing with. I don't know nothing. Usually you don't even need to put that because since the beginning it says that I'm authorized to be handling this for my client. So I just put it there because I'm dealing with people that I don't know. If I know the person or I'm familiar with the building or something, then I just deal with it, But in this case, this client, I don't really know her like that, and I'm working with her because she was a referral. So I like to make sure I'm covered, okay? This is basically for lease. You guys have any questions? It's pretty self-explanatory. It's very black and white, It's not like residential that you guys have a lot to deal with. Like the property needs to be painted and stuff like that, and the contract's a lease. So if there's an association as well, there would be like some type of clause, but in this case, there's no association.
You mentioned that even when the contract says 5 years, it could be 3 years, and it also can increase at the second year. And when you're gonna claim your commission, you can send a reminder about this to prorate your commission.
Yeah.
So
every year. Okay, so some landlords, for your commission, so you understand, some landlords will pay you by a year. They won't even pay you all 3 years up front or all 5 years up front because they don't know if your client's gonna renew, or what if your client stops paying, because their business is going down. So they are, some, not all, but some will only pay you by year. So what happens? You have to prepare an invoice every year and send it to the person's office or to the person's email.
The next year could be another increase, and the following year could be another increase.
It's usually every year 3%. 3%.
3%, maximum 3%.
No, it's minimum 3%.
For increase the rent.
For increase in rent. And rent increments, yeah. So that's pretty standard. It's pretty across the board is 3%. It's not a lot, but when you're paying, like in this lady's case, she's paying like $6,700 a month plus times 3%. That can add up to almost like $300. So it could be something. Okay, so it's a big difference in bigger products. In the smaller warehouses, yeah, you don't feel it that much because it's like $60-$70 or whatever the case is. But the bigger ones, you feel it a lot more. And if the cam goes up plus the increments, you're up there. So the bigger ones, it's pretty non-negotiable for the most part. Most they won't negotiate that. If you get that down, God is in your side, because that's a hard one. But yeah, I've seen from 3. I've seen people increments at 10%. I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of ugly ones.
So you told me it's only 3% allowed.
No, it's a minimum at 3%.
Oh, I thought it was not.
But some people put that's really, so you understand, that's the landlord's choice. Oh, okay. But the norm is 3%. But that's the landlord's choice. If the landlord says no, I don't want to, or the landlord says I want 5, then it's 5. It's whatever. It's up to the landlord at that moment. It has nothing. It could be under 3. I'm just saying the norm is 3. The normal stuff. I work for free. Yeah. So that's like.
And if the tenant want to quit the lease, he can move to another place.
He needs to be able to sublease.
To complete the lease.
Exactly. So that's why there's the assignment and subletting clause, which allows the tenant to, let's say you have a business and you want to be in that location, you're allowed to transfer the lease to you. And that's it. You're still obligated. Your liability is still there, but now you put someone else in the premises. So as long as that person is paying, you're going to be fine. But everything will be, and the owner's aware that someone else is there. But your liability does not leave until the 5 years are done, because your term is 5 years. Okay.
And the owner has to approve the use of the other person too.
And the use.
Like a sublease.
Like a sublease. Yeah, it's the same thing. Okay. Any questions? No? Okay. So now we're going to do the purchase one. This one's a little bit easier. It's shorter because it's just straight to the point. It really doesn't have much because once you get an actual contract, because this is just a letter of intent. So the actual contract is usually prepared by the seller's attorney, usually. Sometimes nowadays it's a little bit more popular that like they'll be like, yeah, Sam, just send me a regular commercial contract. Instead of sending me an LOI, just send me the contract. And they'll work with that. But usually there's always a seller's attorney in commercial, and they're the ones that are going to get that contract and rip it apart or prepare a brand new one just to be able to charge the seller something, you know. So most of the time, what I tell people is if you have a buyer working commercial, get yourself an attorney. Get it, because you're going to be going crazy between, you're fighting basically against the seller's attorney, and the seller's attorney is always on the seller's side. They don't care what the buyer wants. They have no interest in helping the buyer. They only have interest in their seller, and that's, imagine you're working with someone that's worth $5 million. Who you're going to protect more? A buyer that's just coming in to buy the person's property, or you're going to protect your $5 million client that potentially will bring you more of their buildings or more of their friends or whatever the case is. So the seller's attorneys usually are what you call pains. And though you know what? You usually, so I always tell people, if they don't have an attorney, find them a good attorney, get them with an attorney so that could be attorney to attorney, and you actually get out of that a little bit. Okay, and that's why people tell me all the time, why do you love commercial? Because I love attorneys when they have to deal with each other and I don't have to deal with you. And that's kind of what, as a realtor and in a commercial and all that, you're running around for your client because he's so busy, and if you need to go to the city for the client and stuff like that, those are things that you're trying to coordinate. Not always, but anything has to do with the contract and the zoning and the this and the that. Get your attorneys in there. Like, the attorneys will help you as well because they may have connections or whatever the case is. But I always give 2 attorneys and I let them fight with each other. And I'm just here on the back end. What do you want me to do? You need me to go to the office? You need me to go pick up a paper for you? What do you want me to do? That's it. So it helps. Okay, these are big deals. Yes.
Okay. I forgot to ask you with the LOIs, going back to the other one. Do you ever ask the person that the client wants to lease from if they can send your proposal first, of what their space is and stuff like that? I sent an LOI on one, and then when I'm putting it together and doing all this stuff, and then when I submit it to them, they're like, "Oh no, we like to use ours." So have you ever had a situation
Sometimes,
like that?
yeah. I mean, I've had situations like that. That's why it's important to talk to the agent or whoever's running the system on that side. Be like, listen, I'm gonna prepare an LOI. They'll be like, no, don't do it. Just send me your client's name. You need to be careful with that. Okay,
Right.
send me your client's name. No, I'll send me your LOI and I'll prepare it for you and I'll finish it off or whatever. Like the less information, like no information, nothing. If you send in a commercial, if you send your client to me by yourself, if I'm showing you a warehouse of 20,000 square feet and I'm standing there waiting for you, but you only send me your client and I'm about to sell you a 20,000 square foot warehouse and you decided not to show up, you're out. Like in a lickety split, you're out.
Yeah.
Because it's a different ball game. Okay, it's those people, they don't play. Commercial agents, they don't play when it comes to stuff like that. Imagine there's no protection, so you can pull left, right, and you're out. One blink and you could be out. I've seen people do whole deals and they didn't make $1 because they didn't protect themselves. Very important. People were like, oh, but that he'll never do that to me. You're right. But guess what? It's a business and you're dealing with people that own businesses. So if the person that's owning the business is working directly with the agent tells me, listen, if you take out your agent, I'll give you back $10,000. No. You're out. It's different. There's no emotional connection. It's all business. Business number, business number, business number. That's it. In residential, is more emotional. No, I would never do that to Leslie like that. She's been so good to me. Oh my God, no way. But that's how it is. There's more emotion there. Right. In the commercial world, there's nothing. No, it's just business. Oh, what do you want? You want that wall right there? Okay, I'll take it down for you. How long do you want to do the lease? For 10 years? Oh, for sure. I'll build the whole place for you all over again. Yeah. It's just all about the number. It's all about the number. Okay. So back to this. This is the purchase letter of intent. Where it says RE, that's where I put the property info, the folio number, how many units it is, location, whatever the case is. If it's a 30-unit building and they haven't released the info on the building, like the addresses or whatever the case, because it's very confidential, I put the description of what I know. 30 units in Little Havana, zip code 33137, whatever the heck the zip code is there. So basically, that's where I put everything. The folio numbers for land, even sometimes for properties, but mainly for land because there's no address. Okay, party sellers and buyers and or assigned. Why do I do that? Because there is buyers that will come in and they put an offer. Okay. And let's just say, I'm just going to give you an example. Let's just say that you did not get a commission agreement signed. You didn't get a confidentiality agreement signed. You just decided to do this. And the buyer goes in. And that's why I put and or assigned. The buyer goes in. Blah, blah, blah. We do a contract. Everything goes good. Now, all of a sudden, the buyer says, I don't want to put it under this name. I want to put it under this person's name. You lost the whole deal. The whole deal. Gone. Any dollar you were going to make can be gone in a lickety split. The buyer just changed his name. You guys agreed on this name. Now the buyer changes the name. That's not the name that you guys have a commission agreement signed or any type of exclusivity with that name at all. So that's it. The selling agent, again, the listing agent comes and says, all mine, thank you very much, have a good day. And that's that. So and or assigns is super important. Okay, purchase price deposits. That's very broad. Usually, depending on the size of the property, is depending what the deposits will be. And most of the time, they negotiate the deposits big time, especially in commercial. Residential is not as important, but it is. But actually, commercial is way. Like sometimes, if you're dealing with $1 million property, they're definitely going to want at least $100,000 to $200,000 in escrow. It just depends. You know, it all depends on the person. And then, of course, inspection period. So this is a little bit different, okay? So when you're in a property like this, there's a inspection period, a longer period of time. Why? 30 days is a minimum. You need to find out with zoning. You need to do any inspections. It's very clear there. Any environmentals, soil, water, verification of sprinklers, this and that. It's a lot more detail for each use has a different detail that they're looking for. The city looks for certain things. So as a buyer, you have to go in. Let's say you're going to do a clinic. Perfect example. You're very familiar. The clinics have to have 36 inches door. You need to have a bathroom. You need to have no step down. You need to do this. They have more requirements. So they have to make sure that they're able to do all the requirements before getting into this big deal. It could go 30. Now, let's say they have to change zoning. Now, its diligence went from 30 to 60 days because they have to change zoning. So those are important. That's important period for the buyer. That's the biggest thing here. Because if they can't run a business, they can't get what they want out of the property. People are looking to build office buildings and stuff. If the zoning doesn't allow them to do it, they lose all their money. So they're not going to get into it. That's why they need the 30 days because they have a lot of homework to do. Okay, with the cities, with the person, with everything. Okay, and then of course there's a protection there. If you guys keep reading. It says that if it's everything, whatever, if there's no compliances, that the buyer gets the money back. Okay. Closing. Okay, so this one was a cash deal. That's probably why I put it like that. So this case, it was a cash deal. I'm going to actually not worry too much about the cash deal because that's very simple. Once an inspection period passes, the buyer says, yes, I want it. They can close literally the next day as long as we have title and everything done. It's cash. So it's a different. Now, let's just say that it is, it was cash. Let's just say that it was a financing deal. You have a minimum of 60 days. As much as we try to go around and as much as those lenders tell you, I'm going to do it in 45 days, I can do this, literally does not exist. I tried. I mean, I've never been in a commercial deal that is 45 days. Everything has been minimum 60 days, at least. Okay? And then, of course, if there's other special financing that these people get, because like there's a thing called SBA, small business. Okay, they get help. They get help from the government or whoever, the banks, whatever. They get help and they start asking for stuff, underwriting stuff, and that's where it gets complicated. So the contracts start extending and extending and extending, and things just start getting longer. So 60 days is more realistic for a financing deal. Okay. Purchase contract. So basically that the seller will prepare the contract and be delivered by and reviewed by buyer and buyer's legal counsel. That's why I keep telling you it's important that you get an attorney for any commercial deals you do. Just have them step in. There's a lot of knickknacks and these things that even as a realtor you wouldn't even catch, you wouldn't even know about. Like, I promise. And then times of the yeses, which is basically when the offer is valid till. Okay, this is a letter of intent, so it has to do with how long is the seller going to take to answer us. Let's say the seller lives in Japan. Okay, you're not going to get an answer tomorrow. So you have to kind of structure that with the selling agent and ask them, hey, is the seller at in town? How long does he? Okay, yeah, he's actually right now, he's in a business meeting for a whole week. I can't talk to him. Okay, so that changes. The time of the essence will change. Okay. And then terms, well, in this one, buyer will be purchasing cash. However, it could be financing, whatever it is, you just have to change that there. Okay, and then, of course, the brokers. In this specific one, I was working with Keller Williams. This was an agent that I met showing a rental listing of hers, and she started telling me that she knew the owner of this building. So I included her in the clauses. However, she didn't have the property listed or nothing, but she does represent. So I just include her there, and I said Keller Williams and myself and whatever the case is, and then that just protects all our commission, that clause completely.
So even though she wasn't listing it or anything, she gets commission.
Yeah, I included her. I mean, it's her choice. Like, that's between her and her seller. But it doesn't matter. I mean, if you show someone that you're gonna give them half partial of your money, they're gonna do whatever it takes to get the deal done. So you always include them. It makes you look good. You have that shows ethics. You know, even if she doesn't have it listed. But I knew she knew the owner. So why wouldn't I include you if I know you know the owner and I want the deal? That's all I want. I just want the deal done. If you make money, if you don't, or you structure something completely different with him, then that's a whole different ballgame. So in this case, we didn't know the commission. I didn't know anything about the commission because I was going into this owner. Most of the time, like 95%, like these properties are not listed. The good deals in commercial are not listed. They're not on LoopNet. They're not on CoStar. You're going, knocking on their door. Hey, listen, I have someone that wants to buy this right now. Cash. Are you interested in selling? At the right number? You know, at the right number, are you interested in selling? And you're talking directly to the owner already. So most of the time you're talking to the owner directly, especially in commercial. Then they have tenants in there. You always try to, like, you figure it out. Like, that's like if you find a property that's foreclosure. How do you know, like, who do you call? What do you do? Okay, you first go on, see who's the bank. Find out if there's an attorney. You start doing the homework and trying to find out the info. If you go to a property and you know that you have a client that wants to rent that space for their business and there's a tenant in there, you're going to talk to them and you're going to ask them, hey, do you talk to the owner? Is the owner out of town? What's going on with this owner? No, esto es un viejo. He doesn't care, blah, blah, blah. Perfect. You think I can talk to him? You know, I'm coming from an insurance. Never say you're a realtor. Not to the tenant, at least. To the owners, yes, but not to the tenants. You never tell them you're a realtor because they get scared. They have a business running there. Yeah. You know, imagine. I wouldn't want to give you my. Why would I give you why would I give you the owner's information so you can kick me out? Like, I don't want that. So I always go in, like me, and my trick to everything is I'm an insurance. And I do insurance on the side. So I have some type of knowledge. So I can kind of like talk about it. Like, no, you know, they're doing a claim. It's all BS. I just want to get the info of the guy. Like, I don't care. So you kind of try to like play that card when you're working with commercial tenants, like in the property that you're trying to get for your client. If you're working directly with the owner, you go in full throttle. Mm-hmm. I said, have someone interested. I can't disclose their information, but are you interested in selling? You don't ever disclose your client. Never, because they can call. It's very easy to Google a company and get their phone number and talk to the person directly. Listen, someone came to my office telling me that whatever, Leslie wanted to buy something. Is Leslie there? Boom, boom, owner to owner, you're out.
People burn the place out.
Then, of course, there's stuff called like buyer's registrations, confidentiality agreements. Those things are really important. Like when I'm working with a big-time buyer and I don't want them to screw me over and I find them off-market deals, I make them sign buyer registrations. And what that is basically is that if you decide to go around me, you're still going to pay me commission, but you're going to pay me from your money. Now the seller doesn't pay me anymore. Now you're going to pay me for you going inside and I can sue you. And it works. I've seen it in my face. Like literally, I've seen a trial of 3 years. The buyer, the real estate agent won the trial. Okay, just because she got her buyer to sign that registration. And the buyer decided to go around and go directly to the bank that was selling the property. They bought the property. She found out and she sued them. And she won 3 years later.
Why would it take so long if you have this signed?
Because the buyer had an attorney. And they're like, no, that's all this. And, you know, once you go into court, and when you're dealing with millionaires and billionaires, they have the baddest attorney. Even the paper that you thought never existed all of a sudden comes out of nowhere. Like this, I mean, not for nothing, she did very good as a realtor. She had everything. Like she remembered the time, the date. She had a napkin that the guy signed that day. She went full throttle. She won the case. But that's the way to do it is in this business. Because imagine you're dealing with millions and millions of dollars. Like people, imagine how you feel about $100,000. What do you think these people feel about $1 million? Like that's the same feeling. You know, like they're like, I'm not gonna give her $1 million. Why? What does she do? I bought the property. I dealt with the bank. What does she do? You know, people that break cut our commissions for for freaking houses, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Just to make $1,000 more. You know, like these people, they're like, what? 100,000? I'm not gonna give her $100,000 from my business. Are you crazy? I work 12 hours a day here. They don't value you as a realtor. Now, nowadays it's a little bit better when it comes to certain networks. You know, once you're in the billionaires, people that are super busy or just so loaded that all they do is they're always out of town, then yeah, they want you around because you're running around for them. You know, people that are just still growing their business, they may not care if you're there or not, if you make money or not. They care about their extra $10,000 that's going to go towards their business.
So you have all of your buyers sign this buyer registration?
The ones that I don't know. And it also depends on each. It just depends. Like, I've personally never been screwed over, so I can't really say. I've had big timers that I make them sign the paper, yes. I've had meetings and everything. And then I sit in the meeting and I tell them, listen, I have this great opportunity for you. I think it's interesting, but you need to sign this paper. I have the full brochure of the property, but you need to sign it. What's it? This is a confidentiality buyer registration. Like, basically, this property is not on the market. Like, this is a complete off-market property. You should always get that sign, believe it or not. You should always get that sign because you don't know.
The person you expect.
And the way I got mine, so it's a little trick, but someone once sent it to me, and I just literally copied the verbiage, and I created my own. That's the best way to do it, just because you never know. You know, I have all grounds covered in that paper, and if you use it, every time an attorney does something for me, I keep it. Every time. I have a full-blown, like, 50-page lease that an attorney gave to me in Word. I still have it. And the first right of refusal little clause that I put in the other one, I use it and I tweak it. But that's the way to do things here, because you don't trust the person that's giving you the paper, not always. You know, like, you have to. I read everything, and if I don't understand, I read it in 3 hours and I try to understand it. I Google the words, I figure out shit, because you can't trust everyone, believe it or not. Yeah.
So it's the buyer registration. What's the other one?
The confidentiality agreement, which is basically saying that you're not gonna disclose the information to any other buyer other than yours. That's when that's when you're on the selling side, on the listing side. The confidentiality agreement. It's actually the Forbes Publicity has one too.
And then there's also the non-disclosure.
That's the same.
Same thing.
Yeah, confidentiality non-disclosure, which is basically that you're presenting it only to this buyer. And if you do present the property again to another buyer, you're breaking the contract. Like, you already broke it. So now, even like the buyer decides to, say, I really want it, you have to re-sign the confidentiality agreement. Everything has to be redone with that new buyer. And you're not allowed to. If I find out that I give you a property and you go and you're advertising my property, that's a problem. I can put an ethics complaint on you. Okay, so a confidentiality is basically, I'm giving you the information of the property for you to present to this specific person. If you grab my stuff and you start advertising it, I can sue you for doing that. That's what it is. It's commercial. A lot of people don't want you showing off their stuff. Like, there's a lot of stuff in there. There's a lot of stuff in there, and the sellers are millionaires, and they have a lot of assets, or they have tenants and they don't want the tenants to find out, or it's very secretive. That's why in commercial it's about who you know. It's not really, it's what you know, but who you know is the most important.
No, if you have more, you can't, when you have a buyer sign that confidentiality agreement, can you have more, you can only deal with one buyer at a time, or you could have 3 buyers sign that, and then you're dealing with these 3 buyers.
Yeah, and you know who has your information, so if anything is to happen, you have a paper saying, I presented this to you, here's my confidentiality agreement, you're deciding to go behind my back. The coverage covers your commission too. So you're deciding to go behind my back with your agent to go talk to my client, my seller, and I'm the one that presented this to you. Like, I have a document that shows that. Okay? So.
Okay. So protects the selling agent.
Protects mostly the listing agent, yes.
Yeah, because now, yesterday I learned the selling agent.
Yes.
But I'm like, hey, I'm from my mom.
Yeah, selling agent is a buyer's agent.
Yeah, I was like, what?
But some people still look like the other day they sent me a paper for an FHA of a property I'm selling. I'm listing, and the guy's like, oh, you need a sign where it says selling agent. I'm like, no, that actually needs to be changed because I'm not the selling agent. He goes, yeah, you are. And I'm like, no, I'm the listing agent, and the selling agent is the one that you have on the other side. And he goes, oh, that's how you guys have it. And I'm like, no, that's really how it is. So
it is confusing.
It's confusing.
Sellers agents, I guess.
He should have, exactly. If the verbiage, it's their little disclosure. So I told him, I'm like, I know you can fix that. I'm just telling you for your sake. Like, it's up to you. I'll sign it right now. I don't care. It's not a big deal to me. I'm just telling you. And then he's like, no, just sign there, whatever. So some people do it. It's just how it's just, it's the same. Like, it's kind of funny because you're like, oh, I'm selling this property. I'm selling, so I'm the selling agent. But really, the selling agent is the buyer. The buyer's agent is selling the property to the buyer, and you're the listing agent, and that doesn't change. Like, listing. It's kind of funny, but that's pretty much it. Okay, so any questions on the purchase LOI? Anything that you guys are working on or maybe working on? Stop sharing.